Welcome to another episode of the Michele Tafoya podcast. Happily, a few more women are starting to speak out about their experiences competing against trans women in sports. In other words, competing against biological males in sports. Some of these stories are quite compelling. The one we're about to tell has some pictures to go along with it that you're going to want to see. Payton McNabb, high school volleyball player, joins us next.
Now, it's time for some sanity. It's the Michele Tafoya podcast.
I've said it many times. I'll say it again. I can't believe that to some people it seems logical that biological males should compete against biological females in competitive sports. It's one thing to be playing, Red Rover, send Jimmy right over at the the playground in school, elementary school. It's quite another to have them physically go against each other in sports like swimming, volleyball, basketball. We've got a volleyball story for you today. Payton McNabb is the player, you may have heard of her, from North Carolina, who suffered an injury that ended her season in volleyball at the hands of a trans woman. Her story is coming up next. First, I've got a summer secret to tell you for great-looking, glowing summer skin. It's a lot more than staying hydrated and using sun protection. It's having great skincare products from our friends at Genucel. Sun, humidity, dehydrated skin covered in dark spots, puffy bags under your eyes. They're a problem for all of us, but thankfully Genucel has the perfect answer. Introducing Genucel's beautifully curated Summer Essentials package. That's right. This is a limited edition package. It includes Genucel's one-of-a-kind Ultra Retinol Super Moisturizer that uses a powerful plant extract alternative to retinol. It's an alternative, so there are no harsh side effects, and it's perfectly safe to use in the summer sun. Plus, you'll get Genucel's classic skincare therapy for under-eye bags and puffiness, and concentrated vitamin C serum to nourish your skin for a visibly clear complexion with a glow that's going to get you compliments every day. Go to Genucel.com/Michele with one L, Michele, right now to get your Genucel Summer Essentials package. And just for this summer, every subscription order includes a customized summer spa gift box absolutely free. Order now, and every summer package includes Genucel's immediate effects, also free. With its immediate effects, results are guaranteed in 12 hours or less, or guess what? Your money back. Don't wait. Go to Genucel.com/Michele, Genucel.com/Michele with one L, Genucel.com/Michele. Payton McNabb suffered a concussion and a neck injury at the hands of a transgender athlete. You'll hear her story next. Payton McNabb, I'm so glad you're here. Your shirt, Keep Women's Sports Female. It's almost absurd that we have a shirt made that says Keep Women's Sports Female, that we have to say to the world, women's sports should really be restricted to biological women. But that's where we are. And we've had Riley Gaines on this show a couple of times. She's been fighting the good fight. And you have finally decided to step into the light here and share your story. What changed your perspective about how you wanted to be a role player?
Yes. So I was really hesitant on, going out in the world and speaking on such a, big audience. So I waited until I turned 18. So I turned 18 in March. And then my parents let me decide if I wanted to do this or not. And, I knew that it was the right thing to do, so I was ready to speak about it.
Tell me why you believe it's the right thing to do.
Well, I mean, it's really just a common sense issue. I don't know how to explain how they think because I don't know how they think that way. You know what I mean? And I just don't want any other girls to have to get injured or get their opportunities taken away from them or even step down from playing just because of other people's feelings.
When you say you can't explain how they think, you're talking about people who are in favor of trans women and the trans women themselves competing against biological females. Am I correct in that?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me a little bit about growing up, being an athlete, and what your goals and kind of hopes and dreams were as a volleyball player.
So I'm a 3-sport athlete. I play volleyball, basketball, and softball. So I've always loved sports. It's a very big thing in my life, and as well as my family's life. I'm very competitive. I love being competitive. Growing up playing sports just brings you and your friends together. It's just a great way to grow up and play. I've always had the dream of playing. I've always wanted to even play in a bigger playing field because I just loved it so much. But, it's just hard to get into it when I've come behind so much.
And you've gotten behind because of an injury that occurred. Now, we're going to roll the tape of this injury. This is at a high school game in 2022, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you're playing against a team that has a trans woman player that had been playing since they were a freshman? So you had played all 4 years against this team with this player?
Yes, ma'am.
But this experience was different, and we're going to roll the tape and show our audience what happened if they haven't seen this already, because it's quite powerful. John, can you go ahead and roll that? Okay, so that ball comes at you. What did that feel like?
It didn't feel good. After it happened, it was just very, I was unconscious for 30 seconds. So I didn't really know what to think after I came to. My adrenaline was rushing. I was in a state of shock, and everyone else was just fear all over their faces. And it was really heartbreaking.
When did you feel like, wow, this did some damage? Did you know immediately, or was it not until you got diagnosed?
So I didn't feel anything the rest of the night until I slept that morning. When I woke up, it was hurting so bad I couldn't even get out of bed. And then it just started the next day, and immediately.
And so it was a concussion, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And what else? What about your neck?
Yeah, I had a neck injury as well. So I have permanent whiplash, and I have to go to the chiropractor every other week for it.
How is that affecting you day to day?
It definitely affects me because I'm not able to do things I was able to do before. It's hard because, I've not had any problem with even doing things like, riding roller coasters, or because we went on a trip and I was unable to do that. And I just have to be really cautious with myself, which, again, I never had to do that before. So it's very difficult to accept it.
And you're the ripe old age of 18, and you've already got this injury. Have you ever considered whether or not a biological female could have hit the ball that hard and done that damage? Do you think that could have happened, or was this a result of someone who was just physically stronger?
I mean, they were just physically stronger, especially at our age. I mean, we've never had that issue with any other team or any other player, and neither has any other team, especially that we play in our conference. So with every other team, including us, having to go over special things, practices before the game, before that specific game, I mean, that tells you something when the girls have to alter the way they play to fit playing against a transgender athlete.
So in other words, you have to prepare differently for this team because of this particular player. So what kinds of stuff do you have to change?
We changed our positions of where we're on the court, tried to stay out of where I was, but for me, I was the setter, and I kind of just hung out behind our blockers because I'm not tall enough to block. So there was no point in me jumping up there. So I always stay behind our blockers to get tips and other things because that's what has happened at every other game. That's what we've had to worry about with every other team.
Right.
So a lot of people say I was in the wrong position, but with the way that we've played, that was the right place for me to be because, I can't jump that high. So
right. After it happened and you realized this was an injury and it was serious, was there any conversation within the conference, within the teams, within the high school league about, well, this isn't such a good idea after all?
Yes, I'm very thankful our county actually didn't let us play that team for the remainder of the year. They made our whole county, which is 3 schools, refuse the remainder of the games against them. And there was other schools as well that weren't in our conference, but we still played them. They refused the games against that team as well.
And that, I would imagine that team had to feel that's kind of a slap in the face to them, but it was for a legitimate reason. Any idea how that school, how that team responded? Are they going to change their policy about this? Is the district going to change its policy about this?
I'm not too sure. I don't know. I've gotten some messages from fans and people from that school in that area, and they've been reaching out to me and saying how they don't agree with it, but, there's nothing they could do about it. Just from the players in general, they didn't seem – we had to play them in basketball too, and they didn't seem like they really cared, and they weren't really nice to us, but there has been other people from that area that have reached out and said, we don't support this, but there's nothing we can do about it, and we're so sorry.
Right. Does this individual play basketball as well or any other sports?
No, they do not.
Okay. There has been some movement in North Carolina, where you're from and where your school is, that, to ban transgender athletes from playing in competitive sports in high school and presumably college. Where do you see that going? I know that the movement seemed positive, but you do have a Democrat governor, correct?
Yes.
So what's going to happen?
So it definitely has more steps before it can become law. It's expected in that Senate this week, and then it has to go back to the House, then to the governor, who will, of course, veto it. But then the override. NC Values actually just did a poll, and over 70% of North Carolinians don't support this. They don't support males on female athletes teams. And of course, Gallup just came out with that nationwide poll showing 69% of Americans don't support it as well. So this is it definitely has overwhelming support that a lot of people just don't realize.
Yeah. And we've seen that trend moving. We see more people now. Slowly, these polls are inching in the direction of, this isn't fair. This isn't right. This is not fair to these young women. We have Title IX for a reason. To me, it's almost like crazy times. I don't get it. When you hear from people, oh, you just hate trans, you're transphobic. What do you want those people to know about you and your heart and what this is truly about?
I want to tell those people that, I don't hate anyone. This isn't an anti-trans situation. You can do your own thing. This is honestly just a pro-women bill, really. And it's not against anyone. No one's getting their opportunities taken from them. It's just, we're protecting women and girls, and we shouldn't have to move over because of how someone feels.
It's a easy argument for people to make when they say, well, you're transphobic and you don't want them to have opportunities, which is not the case. They have opportunities to play in their biological division. That's why we have divisions, similar to why we have age divisions. You don't have 13-year-olds playing, t-ball with 6-year-olds. You don't do that. So there are a number of divisions for reasons, and they are they're kind of backed by science. So this group that often accuses others of denying science seems to be denying science here. This is about biology and chromosomes, and you've added your voice, as I mentioned earlier, to this, I hope, growing chorus of women who are speaking out and saying, here's what I've experienced. Here's what I've been through. This isn't just some idea you're hearing about or some random story. This is happening more and more, and it's happening to real people like me, and you don't want it to happen to anybody else. So what do you see the near future for you looking like? How active do you plan to be?
In this movement, you mean?
Yes.
Well, I want to be as active as I can be. Obviously, I didn't think this was ever going to happen to me, and I didn't think this was going to be my future at all. I'm not very, into all this like stuff, but I feel like the Lord let it happen to me for a reason, and I'm just going to do whatever His plan is, and I'm just going to do what's right. And I know I'm in the right, and that's all I want to do. I just want to help as much as I can.
Yeah. What do you want to do after all of this? I mean, or in addition to all of this, what do you kind of have your mind set on as far as what's next for Payton McNabb in the world?
Well, I have no idea. So
good for you.
They really pressure you to know exactly your life plan, especially in high school. And, I've always just been that person who I just don't know. So, I'll find out when I do. Yes, you will.
It is amazing. They want you to declare your major as you go into college. Yes, I'm going to be a doctor. Yes, I'm going to be a psychologist, whatever it is. And yet you go through so much in that journey, and you could turn 180 degrees and go, no, you know what? I want nothing to do with med school. I want to be something else completely. So good for you for accepting that sort of it'll happen when it happens. I'll figure it out as I go. But in the meantime, I think that you have an important story to tell, and I'm glad that you're telling it. And do I understand that you have younger siblings as well who want to play sports?
I do. I have two younger siblings. One is my sister, and she's going into high school this upcoming year. And she's very, very competitive and athletic like me. She plays 3 sports as well. So sports are a very big part of her life, and, I don't want it cut short at all for her.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you feel like you got cut short? You feel like this injury just limited what the rest of your senior year would have looked like?
Yes, definitely. Not only with all the COVID stuff that cut my years in half too, so I was hoping my last full year would see a sense of normalcy, and I would be able to compete in each sport, the best I could. But with the injury, I was only able to do a quarter of my volleyball season, and wasn't able to get back to my other sports like I was in the past.
I'm really sorry about that. And sports are full of injuries, but we are, having covered the NFL for so long, I know one of the things that every sport tries to get better at is being safer and being, lowering the risk of injuries. And in your case, they increase the risk of injury by putting you in this position. And so it's counterintuitive. It doesn't make sense. I can't believe we're talking about this. And the good news is, like you cited the polls, you have much more support than you probably even realize, and that probably more than the polls even suggest. I'm glad that you've joined this bit of activism, even though you're not necessarily an activist, but keep wearing that shirt. And I'm so glad that you took time to join us, Peyton. And I wish you well in everything you do, no matter where it takes you, no matter what you figure out. It's important to have your voice in this. And so good on you. Congratulations.
Thank you so much for having me. You're great.
Oh, you got it. And as always, folks, this is the Michele Tafoya podcast. I say it every single time. 2 things: be brave like Peyton is being, and do good like Peyton is doing. And I'm thrilled that she was with us today. We'll see you next time.